My name is Ismail. I'm from Los Angeles. I'm a Californian. I was not born there, but I grew up in California. My family is from California. I was raised there from about the age of 8 until I was 17. I was raised in a Christian family, and it was a very religious family. We went to church all the time, and it was a very interesting life to lead. My family wanted me to be a clergy. They wanted me to be a priest. And that was a very interesting time for me. So I wanted to be a musician. So what made it interesting is how do I negotiate the two of those? Because in California, I was entertaining in clubs as a young man already. I was doing music all the time. And decided to follow my family's wishes, and I went off to school to become a holy man. That's how I'll say it. You know, it was not my first choice of what to do. I was a sports guy. I played all the sports, did music. My family wanted me to work in the church. So I went to school to become a priest. And I went 4 years to college, and it was interesting. It was a time in America where there was a lot of fighting in some of the churches because of what was known as higher critical thinking. The academics were challenging what was being said in the Bible, and people were afraid of that. So the college that I went to shut down, and I was right in the middle of all of that. And I decided it wasn't the best thing for me to do to go to a seminary at the time. Seminary is Papazokulu. And so I went to the university instead, and I studied ancient Near Eastern languages. So I went to the university instead and studied ancient Near Eastern languages and did a master's degree there. And my professor thought I should actually go back to seminary and do some theological work, and I said, okay, let's do that. So I went to seminary, and while I was studying at seminary, I was teaching Hebrew, and I was teaching the Old Testament as well as learning it. Old Testament is Taurat in Islam, and I was also teaching the New Testament, so it was a very interesting time for me. The more I taught and the more I learned and the more I researched, the less I believed in what the core of Christianity was, that Jesus was the Son of God, Jesus was the Messiah. I didn't believe it so much anymore. So that was very interesting for me to have that struggle. And I walked away again. I walked away and said I need to do music and do something different. So I didn't have a music degree, so I began learning music and found my way into a music program and eventually a master's program in music, and came out to Los Angeles. Again, I had gone away to the Midwest to school. I went back to Los Angeles to do my doctoral work in music. And while I was in Los Angeles, I started to work in the entertainment industry in Los Angeles, doing theater and television and live concerts and writing music. And I didn't believe what I had grown up with. And so it was very interesting for me to grow up, to come back home and to be struggling with what I believed and what I was doing. So that's a quick summary of me getting to Los Angeles. 12 years I'd spent in the Midwest trying to do learning and figure out what I was going to do. And I wanted to get back into music is what I wanted to do. So found my way into a doctoral program at University of Southern California, and then I began to work in town in music, and that was very special. For me, there was a part of me that was missing. I knew it. And one day, I figured I needed to begin to find my way back to what was missing. I was missing the spiritual part of my life. At that time, I had done lots of reading, and I knew who Rumi was. In America, we call Hazrati Jalaluddin Rumi, we called him Rumi. And I knew who he was. And I found me reading his books that were translated into English. Later on, I learned that they weren't really his words, they were the translator's words. But I began to search, and I began to look for an answer. And I found my way to lots of retreats that were given by people that were wanting to teach about Rumi or things spiritual. And I found my way to a Turkish sheikh who had come to America, and he was teaching about Rumi. And that was interesting. So I said, yeah, this is something I need to find more out about. A friend of mine in Los Angeles told me once that a descendant of Rumi was coming to California, was going to teach. And I said, well, where's that going to be? And he's coming to San Francisco. So I said, okay, I'm going to go. So I left Los Angeles, got in the car and drove 6 hours north to San Francisco and went to this house where all these Sufis were gathered. And this woman arrived who had a translator with her. And this woman was Essene Chalabi. I did not know who Essene Chalabi was, except she was a descendant of Rumi. So I listened, and I liked what I was hearing. And I said to her, he said, I've been searching for many years, and I've had lots of great teachers, but I feel like I'm swimming to the bottom of the ocean, and I don't know where the treasure is. And she said to me, because you're seeking, you will find. And that's stuck with me. That was a very important thing for me to hear. So several months later, this is around the year 1998, maybe early 2000, I found myself in New York with this Turkish sheikh again, and he said, I'm going to Konya, Turkey, and I'd like you to come with me. I said, why not? Sounds like a good thing to do, to go to Konya. And so I made arrangements to come to Konya with a group of Americans. We went to Istanbul first, and I met some people while I was in Istanbul. Then we came to Konya. This was in December, the anniversary of Jalaluddin Rumi's death, Shab-i Rus. And I came to Konya with these Americans, and we stayed in the Rumi Hotel, which is just right over there. And I standing in the lobby, and a gentleman whom I did not know exactly who he was said, I'm going to go to my mother's house. If you want to come with me, meet me in the lobby in 10 minutes. So I said, okay, I'm going to do that. I'm going to come down. I have nothing to lose. I'm in Konya. Why not go do that? So I came down to the lobby, and this gentleman was there, and a few Americans came down, and we went outside. It was the cold winter night already. We got in the back of this small car, and 3 Americans got in the back of the car, and I sat in the front seat of the car, and there was a gentleman driving, and the man that was talking sat next to me, and I was sitting in the front seat on the passenger side. We got in the car, and the driver turns out to be the man who became my sheikh, Nader Kanabeyukler, Nader Dede we call him, and the man sitting next to me in the middle was Makam Chalabi. He is the head of the Mevlevi order and a descendant of Jalaluddin Rumi, 22nd generation descendant. So we went to his mother's house, and we went up the elevator, and as I got out of the elevator, the door opened down the hallway, and out of the hallway walked Essene Chalabi. And she opened her arms to me and said, welcome, I've been waiting for you. And that was my first experience in Konya, and it was a wonderful experience. That evening, we were sitting doing zikr, and there was teaching going on, and I didn't understand any Turkish at all, but I knew what was going on, and it was wonderful. And so it wasn't the next morning, it was the morning after that. We went to Sabah Namaza, we went to morning prayers at Shemsi Tabrizi Jamisi. We went to where the mosque and tomb of Shemsi Tabrizi is. And it was very crowded because it was Shab-i Rus. And so we happened to get there early, and we were sitting up in front, and I was sitting in the front row, and on my right side was Nader Dede, and on my left side was Makam Chalabi. And that was pretty amazing. I really had no idea what I was in the middle of, but I was beginning to understand that something special was happening. So after morning prayers, we came over here to the museum. In those days, we could come in early, and they called and asked permission to come in, and a few of us walked around, and at one point Makam Chalabi took me by the hand and brought me over here to this side of the Yesha Kuba, of the Green Dome, and there is a place called the Niyaz Penjarasi, he called it the wishing window, and he said to me, we come here and we offer our prayers. Let me pray and show you how we do it, then it'll be your turn. So he went up and stood at the Niyaz Penjarasi and prayed. And I stood there and watched. And as he was praying, I looked around. There was snow everywhere. And off to my right side was a single red rose blooming in the midst of the snow. And then he came down from the steps and he invited me to go up to that place. So I walked up to the Nias Pendrisi not knowing what I was going to do. So I stood there and I started to say words of prayer. So I stood there and started to say words of prayer. And then something happened. I don't know what it was, but I was overwhelmed all of a sudden with, I don't know if it was joy or sadness, but I could feel my heart rip open. And I've said it several times, and I've said it several times that I believe Jalaluddin Rumi called to me, and I felt my heart rip open, and I began to cry, and I cried for hours, literally.
Hayal salah, hayal salah, hayal falah, hayal falah. Qad qamat as-salah, qad qamat as-salah. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. La ilaha illallah.
Allah.
And we went back to the hotel, and I was with Makam Chalabi, and I was still crying. And Nader Dede was sitting at the table, and I was still crying. I didn't know what to do. I just sat with it. And so for the next few days, I followed either Nader Dede or Makam Chalabi everywhere. No matter where they went, I went. And that was the way that I began to learn about Konya and to learn about the Mevlevi way, by following them and going with them. And I couldn't speak any Turkish, and Nader Dede couldn't speak any English. But I found a way to say to him, I need to learn some things from you before I go. I said, I need to learn some prayers from you. I need to learn what to do. And so we went to my hotel room, and I set up my tape recorder, and he began to do zikr. And he recorded zikr for me. And he recorded Quran for me. And he recorded some prayers for me. And I didn't know anything he said in Turkish, but I understood everything that he said. I understood word for word. Because in the Mevlevi way, we speak heart to heart, but I didn't really understand that's what was going on. But I understood him at the deepest level. And it was from that moment he became my teacher. And he still is my teacher.
Sen de beni, ben de seni bırak da gel. Yola yük olma, yalın halde gel. Gel, gel bu Mesnevi ummanına. Gel, bu cihan suha ihtiyaç. Gel, yine de gel, yine de gel.
So it was interesting for me because I wasn't seeking a new religion. I had left Christianity many years ago. I was still doing music in churches because I loved music and that's what I like to do. But I didn't believe in any of that. But after coming to Konya and having a deeper experience with Jalaluddin Rumi, I knew that becoming a Muslim was part of what I needed to do so. And what was interesting for me is that it was either the next year or the year after, I was in Konya and I made a trip to Istanbul, and I was there for a couple days, and I stayed with who is now a Mevlevi Sheikh now. I stayed with him in his house, and I got to know him and his family. And when I came back to America, a friend of mine that I was trying to learn some Turkish with and do some translating so I could get stronger in my Turkish language, he introduced me to a young man who turned out to be a friend of the man I had met in Konya, in Istanbul, and he and I became great friends. And it turns out his dad was the imam at the Jami in Istanbul. He was the imam of Shishli Jami, and now he was in Los Angeles enough, and so he was the imam at the Jami where I was going to Jummah namaz. And so I had decided to become a Muslim, alhamdulillah, and that was really important to me. My family was very supportive. My dad always said to me, you can do whatever you want to do, you can be whatever you want to be. I raised you one way, but you can be whatever you want to be. And so I became a Muslim, alhamdulillah. Müslüman oldum. Evo, alhamdulillah. And so that was important. It was an easy thing for me to do, and the people that knew me understood. It was not a big deal to them because they knew I was a spiritual person. They knew I was seeking. They knew the work I was doing with people, that following the path of Jalaluddin Rumi, becoming a Muslim, was the right thing to do. And everybody has been so supportive of that. It has never been a problem for me. But in America, there is still a very anti-Muslim feeling. The media in America speaks mostly about Muslims in the Middle East who are terrorists. And there is a great fear in America of who these people are, that they might come into your house. It's a really sad thing. So it's very important that the teachings of Jalaluddin Rumi become known to the world, so that a real understanding of what Islam is can exist not only in Turkey but in America and in the rest of the world.
Allahümme salli ala seyyidina Muhammedin nebiyyi ummi ve ala alihi ve sahbihi ve sellim.
So I began to come back to Konya every year to learn with Nader Dede and to learn about the Mevlevi way from Nader Dede. Nader Dede was my teacher, and he has always been with me 100%, right with me all the time. The Azan is coming. How lovely. We don't have this in Los Angeles. There is no Azan in Los Angeles, so I come here and I get to hear the Azan 5 times a day, traveling across the city. It is the most amazing sound in the world. And for those of you that grew up with it, know what it is. It has to be amazing. And for me, because I didn't grow up with it, it's even more amazing to hear the call to prayer, to hear the sound of Allah's voice calling us, And where we're sitting right now, you can't hear it on the film, but we're being surrounded by the Azan. Everywhere the Azan is coming, and we are being enveloped in the call of Allah. This is çok güzel dedim şimdi. Azan her yer şimdi. Maşallah.
Euzubillahimineşşeytanirracim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Allahümme entesselamu ve minkesselam ve ileyke yeudu selam. Fehayyina Rabbena biselam. وادخلنا دارك دار السلام تبارك ربنا بسلام وتعاليت لك الحمد يا ذا الجلال والإكرام سبحانك ما عبدناك حق عبادتك يا معبود سبحانك ما عرفناك حق معرفتك يا معروف الحمد لله على التوفيق واستغفر الله على التقصير.
To be here and to have the Azan literally come like a wave and surround you and wrap you up and fill you up, and to hear the different voices come, to hear the Azan and to hear Allah calling you to prayer and to reminding you that He loves us. It's an amazing thing. So that was important for me to come here to experience this, because to be Mevlevi to me means you have to be in Konya. You can be Mevlevi someplace else, but if you don't know the tradition, if you don't know what it's like here, and to walk in the steps where Jalaluddin Rumi walked, then you don't really understand what it is to be Mevlevi.
Ya Allah, Ya Mu'min, Ya Allah, Ya Muhaymin, Ya Allah, Ya Musawwir, Ya Allah, Ya Ghaffar, Ya Allah, Ya Qahhar, Ya Allah, Ya Fattah, Ya Allah, Ya Razzaq, Ya Allah, Ya Alim, Ya Allah, Ya Allah. اللهم ارحم وتحنن على سيدي وسندي ومعتمدي ومكان الروح من جسدي بذخيرة يومي وغدي مولانا محمد جلال الحق والدين متعنا الله بسره المبين والحمد لله رب العالمين. الفاتحة. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى سيدنا ونبينا وحبيبنا ورسولنا محمد.
I don't know how else to say it. It's for me to be here and to have my shoes in America, having walked on these steps here, in this ground, and this path, and in this turbe. I always remember when I'm wearing these shoes in America that these shoes were in Konya, and it's pretty amazing. So I came to Konya year after year and would stay sometimes a week, sometimes 2 weeks, sometimes 3 months. The longer I could stay, the better. The problem was always I had work back in California. And when I was with Nader Dede, little by little, we were learning zikr, we were learning Ismail al-Husna, the 99 most beautiful names. And I think it was in 2008 he gave me the Avradi Sharifa, which is the book of daily prayers and readings that we do as Mevlevis. We've learned about the life of Muhammad. We've learned Tasawwuf. We've learned about Sufism, the Mevlevi understanding of the way things work. We've read Masnavi together. We've studied Seri Saluk together. So it's been a little by little. Every time I'm here, there's more and more work that gets to be done. I don't remember what year it was. If it was 2000, probably 2009, 2010. I remember Maqam Chalabi called while we were in the Tekka here, and it was from his phone call to Nader Dede that permission came to me to begin to do Sema. And doing Sema was one of the most amazing things for me. I've been asked many times about the first time I ever did Sema, what it was like. And I've said over and over again, I don't really remember it. I remember from the pictures doing it that people took, but I don't really remember, because it was also an overwhelming experience to be with the other Sema Zens, to be making Sema, to be hearing only the name of Allah being said over and over again, and to be turning and turning with everybody. And I don't remember what the first experience was, but every time it became more and more special. And one of the most special times was to be here during December, during the time of Sheb Rus, to make Sema for Sheb Rus, either here or in Mersin or in Antalya or in Van. We went all kinds of places making Sema around Turkey. And for me that was also interesting because I got to meet Turks from all over the country and to be welcomed by them and to be made to feel comfortable, to be made to feel as one of them. And I've always felt very welcomed here. It's interesting, I get emails even while I'm here on this current trip. People say, oh, be safe, I hope you're okay in Turkey. And people don't understand that this is one of the safest places in the world and one of the nicest places to be. And I would almost rather be no other place than here right now. You know, for me to be Mevlevi, to be Muslim is it's like having the missing part of me come into place. And it's hard for me in Los Angeles because where I live, there's not a jami nearby, there's not a mosque nearby. And so I have to travel to go to the mosque, and I've made lots of relationships with different people at different mosques because for many years I taught the monotheisms at university, and so I created relationships at various mosques with people. And so being here, I can walk on a corner and there's a mosque, and over here and there's a mosque, and people pray together, and it's such a different feeling. I remember it was last year I came for a couple days when I was here for a project, and I remember I came off the plane and came running here. It was Friday prayer time. It was Jummah namazan time. And I remember I came running over to Kapajami, and it was packed and there were people outside. And I remember I came running up and sat down outside with the other men praying. And I felt like I was back at home and I had never left. And that's what's important to me. I mean, for me, I found my home here. For me, I found a place where I belong. I remember one day, this is one of my first trips here, there was a bunch of young dervishes in a restaurant with us. We all went after some meeting or practice, and we were sitting in one of the restaurants. And they were asking me about my family, and I had said my father passed away, my mother had passed away. And this young dervish, whose name I don't even remember right now, looked at me and said, "Well, we're your family now." And that's so true. When I found my way here, when Mevlana called me here, I found my family, I found my home, and I haven't left it, and I don't intend to leave it. I mean, and I can only hope that other people that hear these words will find a way here, find a way to open their hearts and to find a home here with me and with the other people who live here and who love Allah and who want to learn about a way of peace from Jalaluddin Rumi.
Hazreti Mevlana diyor ki, beri gel beri, daha da beri. Bu yol vuruculuk ne zamana kadar sürüp gidecek? Madem ki sen bensin, ben de senim. Nedir bu senlik ve benlik? Biz hakkın nuruyuz, hakkın aynasıyız. O halde kendi kendimizle, birbirimizle ne diye çekişip duruyoruz? Bir aydınlıktan neden böyle kaçıyor? Haydi şu benlikten kurtul, herkese dost ol. Sen kendinde kaldıkça bir habbesin, bir damlasın. Halbuki herkesle birleştin, kaynaştın mı? Bir madensin, bir ummansın. Ve gazeli bu şekilde devam ediyor. İnsanları birliğe, beraberliğe çağırıyor yüzyıllar evvelinde. Türbeden bir gün çıktık, yürüyoruz. Bir şey söyleyeceğim ama ismini hatırlayamıyorum. Döndüm, İsmail dedim kendisine. Sonra da gülerek dedim ki, çok gülen bir yüzün var. İsmail'den unutmam, aklımda kalır. Onun için sana İsmail diyebilir miyim? Hiç unutmuyorum, gözlerinden yaşlar akmaya başladı. Ben onu üzmemek adına nedenini sormadan sözüme devam ettim. Ama daha sonra kendisinden dinlediğimiz çok güzel bir anekdot var ki, ismini İsmail koyduğum beyefendi meğer Katolik bir papazmış ve arayış içinde olan bir insanmış. Üniversitede de tek tanrılı dinler dersi veriyormuş. Ve o arayış onu yolunu benimle kesiştirince daha fazla öğrenmeyi istemiş. Hazreti Mevlana'yı daha çok bilmek istemiş. Okudukça, araştırdıkça o gönlüne düşen ateş akılla birleşince daha büyük, daha da alevlenmiş ve bu yüzden Konya'ya gelmiş.
2005 yılında Konya'ya geldi. Bir akşam üzeri pardon. Orada tanıdıklarım da vardı gelen grubun içerisinde. Dediler ki dede bir haydariye dikilmek istiyoruz. Olur dedim, sabah olsun gidelim beraber ölçüsünü verelim. Fakat sabah Şems Camisi'nde namaz kılmak istedik. Bu dediğimiz arkadaş yani İsmail, ben de gelebilir miyim dedi. Ben de hay hay dedim ama bu arada ben İngilizce bilmiyorum. Ama onun gel demesi böyle bir konuşmamız oluyor. Kimse de şey yapmıyor, yani bir tercümanlık yapmıyor. Geldi. O zaman Faruk Hemdem Çelebi, Makam Çelebi'mizle beraber bizim aramıza oturdu. Biz de beraber bir sabah namazı kıldı. Ve çıktıktan sonra Huzur-u Pir dediğimiz Hazreti Mevlana'nın türbesine geldik. Orada bir dua ettik. Dua ederken öyle bir müthiş ağlamaya başladı ki hakikaten hüngür hüngür ağladı. Ve tam duamız bitti dönerken dedi ki su ne demek dede dedi. Bakın bunda ben hiçbir İngilizce bilmiyorum. Ama onun o sorduğunu hissediyorum. Su aşk dedim. Buldum dedi ya, buldum. Ben bizdeki, bunu açıklamak istiyorsanız da silebilirsiniz. İncil'deki boşluğu buldum. Sevgi, aşk dediği şey. Dolayısıyla ertesi gün onlar Amerika'ya gitti. 3 ay sonra gelebilir miyim dedi. Gel dedim. Dedi ben Müslüman olmak istiyorum. Hay hay. Neyse bize nasip oldu. Önce Arapça öğrendi. Sonra Farsça öğrendi. Dolayısıyla tekrar işi vardı oraya gitti. Tekrar bir 6 aylığına geldi. Tabi bunlar hep masraf adama yani düşünebiliyor musunuz? 6 ayda gece gündüz beraber olduk. Yani düşünebiliyor musunuz? 7-24 mi diyorsunuz şimdi yeni dilde? Beraber olduk. Çok mükemmel bir şey oldu ama İslam'ı seçti ve bu arada okuduğu, öğretmenlik yaptığı üniversitede Hristiyanlık ve Musevilik hakkında ders verirken araya İslamiyet'i koydu. Ve o dersi de vermeye çalıştı. Bir gün ben bir kitap okuyordum Amerika'da. İnanın bu böyle yaşandı. Kitabın sonunda gel, koşarak gel. Sen de seni, ben de beni bırak gel. Bunu okurken bir telefon. İsmail, koşarak geliyorum dede dedi. Ve elimdeki telefon düştü.
Aşıkın nesi